Welcome to the Grant Info session by Syrn Media. Today we feature If Then Shorts with Hulu. Thanks for tuning in. We will begin shortly. Hi, Chloe, Caitlin. So great to have you with us today. Thank you so much for joining us in Syrn Media's Grant Info session. I'm really excited to learn a little bit more about If Then. Would you both mind introducing yourselves really quickly and your roles?
Sure, I'll go first. Hi, my name is Chole Gbai. I'm the director of If Then, and I work in tandem with Caitlin, who will introduce herself shortly, to lead the program, which is really focused on supporting short form work in the documentary space. And so we do everything from talent incubation to large scale funding to supporting short filmmakers with distribution. And I should say we're housed as an initiative of Field Division at First Look Media.
Amazing.
And I'm Caitlin Mae Burke. I'm the supervising producer at If Then Shorts. And I sort of come into that talent incubation space and really do some of the deep mentorship that the program is known for. And we work with projects from development through distribution and sort of touching on all of the different stages in its life. And so it's basically my job to be the hand to hold along the way and available to answer those questions for filmmakers.
Great, thank you so much. I'll start with you first, Chloe. Do you mind sharing the mission and the history of If Then and how the partnership with Hulu came about?
Totally. If Then was founded in 2017 to really disrupt the short space. We were seeing a boom in content and short form content, and there wasn't really a sustainable pathway built up for the creators that make it. So in tandem with Tribeca Film Institute and the MacArthur Foundation, this program was dreamed up to kind of diversify pipelines and bring in new talent, and really like also support existing short filmmakers that were making this work. And we've kind of continued ever since. We have a focus on regional filmmaking, so we support filmmakers that are living and working in underrepresented regions across the U.S. and internationally. We're trying to see what is kind of beyond New York and LA and London, and think more kind of like large scale about like the types of stories that we're maybe not seeing on screen. And we, in addition to underrepresented regions, we're also really focused on underrepresented filmmakers and supporting diverse filmmakers, whether that means racial diversity, citizenship, ability, gender, the LGBTQ community, class, lots of different kind of ways that people are not given access in this industry, and we really try to disrupt that. So our partnership with Hulu was really born out of their desire to support both short form filmmakers and the not-for-profit industry that surrounds it. They were looking at what had happened this summer, and we're seeing kind of a great need for funding support for short form filmmakers, and to really think about holistically how to sustain their careers. And so we worked really, really closely in tandem with them to dream up this idea. They wanted something that was not just like substantial funding, they also wanted career training, and they wanted to kind of build in this new pipeline for talent. So the If Then X Hulu program was born. And it's a large scale fund. And so we're supporting four short form documentary filmmaking teams with $25,000, as well as a year of career training mentorship. So that could be everything from master classes with industry mentors, really in-depth editing mentorships, training, pro bono legal training, and a whole host of other things. And then halfway through production, the projects are going to get a rough cut screening with invited industry mentors to get really key, crucial feedback before going into post-production, and then helping with distribution support for the films. And along the way, they'll have access to the Hulu team to get their incredible minds involved in the production.
Sounds like a full-fledged program that's really going to help people from start to finish. Caitlin, can you talk a little bit about the projects that you're looking to support for the If Then Hulu Short Documentary Lab?
Certainly. So we're really excited by community conscious storytellers. So really having that perspective of like really feeling lived in the stories. We always like present tense stories. We love sort of fierce filmmaking, fierce and fearless. And we're looking for strong creative vision, and also just sort of, as Chloe mentioned in our mission, just like anything that's aligned with voices that we haven't heard. And we're looking for filmmakers who have potentially have done some work in the past and know how to take something to completion, but would really benefit from having this sort of like hands-on element, and just to take their career to the next level. Sort of a person who's sort of like poised to explode.
What about an experience level? I mean, because for some people, they might be poised to explode 10 years into their career versus 1 year into their career. Is there an ideal level of filmmaker experience?
I think that's an excellent question. And I think you really nailed it in terms of that sort of like precipice to taking the next step. And some people take a different path to get there. So we're not necessarily looking for longevity, or saying, if you've done this for 5 years, then you're too experienced or not experienced enough. It's really looking for someone who has demonstrated with their existing work that they have that spark and are ready to take the next step, and to really feed into all of the different elements of the program to be able to like move into a career sustainability in a way that they maybe didn't have when they were working totally independently. Do you have anything to add to that, Chloe?
I think you're absolutely right. I think that we're so focused on it's two things, right? We really care about the person who's making the project, and we also really care about the project. And does it have strong creative vision, and does it feel like it can be executed? And I think both those things are really telling. And so I would definitely encourage people, if they're a first-time filmmaker, they should feel like they should apply, and they should not feel intimidated. And same thing for folks who have been in this industry for a minute, they should also apply, because it's the type of story we're looking for. And I think you could be at either end of that spectrum and still have a fresh new idea that's ready for like next level opportunity.
Thank you. Around the grant itself, you said it's a $25,000 grant. Can you speak to if there are limitations around how that funding can be spent, and what the budget range of the project should be for those who are wanting to apply?
Totally. I mean, it's production funding, so we expect it to be spent on the making of the movie. And the projects that apply should be able to be made within that budget range, right? And so we're not looking at if you're bringing in a project that has a $100,000 budget and you're applying for a $25K grant, our main question is going to be like, okay, where are you getting the other $75K from, so that we can actually have this movie be finished, right? Because we don't want a film to be stuck in a funding pause because it can't complete its funding. And so we're looking for something, and $25K is kind of a good working sum to make an excellent short doc. So we're looking for something that can be fully funded. We're not calling it fully funding, but we're looking for somebody who can come in and take that completion funding and really finish it out. And I've totally forgotten the first half of your question. Caitlin, do you want to come in? Is there something I'm missing?
I wanted to add that in terms of the budget range, the projects if they have other funding, that's absolutely fine, and they remain eligible as long as they retain their copyright. We understand that not every project is going to be able to be made for $25,000. But we are saying, there have been folks who in development have gotten funding from other sources totally cool as long as the copyright stays with the filmmaker, because that's super important for us in terms of what we can hopefully accomplish with distribution and festival strategy going into a program like this.
Okay, that makes sense. Caitlin, can you speak to the mentorship and the career training element throughout the year? Just a little bit about what you do with the fellows?
Absolutely. So these projects are going to be, it's a cohort-based lab. So these projects will be meeting as a group approximately once a month or once every 6 weeks with like very targeted long mentorship sessions that will be these master classes or will be sort of focused on a theme based on where they are in production, which is why we're looking for projects that are in development or early production so that everyone sort of starts off at a similar place so that when we're hitting these conversations, 6 months in, we're going to move into post-production conversations. And if you already finished, then you're sort of ahead of where we need to be. But we, in addition to bringing in industry mentors to both talk sort of something of both a practical career oriented and also liberal arts approach to this, we're not just looking to say like, this is the one way that this one expert has done this thing and you have to do it this way, as much as looking at the group and saying like, how do we think about this and how do we work within the industry and how do we also reflect changes we want to see in the industry? So those conversations will be coming up with the cohort. In addition to that, they'll be getting really detailed feedback. And from my side, the mentorship is sort of an open door and something where I'll be checking in with them about how they're structuring their budget and making sure that they are paying attention to those things that they'll be needing to spend their grant on and allocating some for finishing the film. Making sure that they have, answering some production questions and some production scheduling questions, and then moving into post, some of that might be sort of like looking into what teammates might be valuable, and just really being available in the way that they should have their own producer or have a director producer who's really focused on the individual project, but being sort of that experienced additional person that they can call on to answer any of those questions as they come up.
That makes very good sense. And I can see the value of already being in a pair director producer so that you can move forward in that way. Chloe, can you speak to how the lab, including a rough cut feedback screening, can you talk about the value of that and how this opportunity could help support the progress of a project?
Yeah, I mean, I think that especially at a time like right now where folks are so isolated and can't gather, it's really important to build up spaces of community. And we've seen that in our own programs, that when we were even in a virtual space, when we were able to bring filmmakers at similar stages in their projects together, collaboration really thrived. And I think filmmaking is in general a very collaborative art. It's great to get notes. It's great to get feedback. It's also great to have like a peer that you can vent to when you come through a problem, or you can like toss ideas off of. And that's part of what we're really trying to build with this, is a cohort of filmmakers that are primed and ready for the opportunity, that can really spend the year working on these projects with like deep mentorship and deep support. And the idea is that, support of all kinds, financial, creative, it's just so necessary for filmmakers, and we're trying to give it all to them so that they can just succeed and be at their max. And then our hope is that all of that value goes into the project. We get an excellent film out of it because they've just been like injected with all of this greatness, but then also them as filmmakers and in their careers will be able to take all of that and move it along with them, and hopefully, right, take it on to their communities and to their future collaborations, and it will just be like exponential value throughout. So yeah, I think there's a lot that will come out of creative partnership, creative collaboration, and networking, building real meaningful networking relationships.
That's great. But one of the things that I think that makes If Then such a great opportunity is that you guys are so hands-on with not just the development and going into production, but where a lot of other grants fall off, you are there in distribution as well. So Caitlin, I'm going to throw this to you. What sort of expertise do you provide filmmakers trying to put together a distribution strategy? And Chloe, I don't know if you want to add in how this is changed with the collaboration with Hulu and how it's become extra unique.
I'm very happy to answer this question because so my background is in independent documentary producing. And at the very beginning of If Then, I was invited to be on a panel and they were talking about multi-platform distribution. And they're talking about like, these are the windows and like you do your festivals and then you do this platform and you can get people to share rights. And then that's how you get more revenue streams. And I'm sitting there as a filmmaker with like 4 or 5 features under my belt, just telling people like, just take whoever, like take the $200 and run because this doesn't exist for shorts. And about 8 months later, I was working at If Then, and I saw how wrong I was and how much the program had really changed that. And so what's exciting about our commitment to multi-platform distribution, which will show up for these projects, is that it's looking at different ways to reach an audience. It's great to be able to have a great festival run, but also weigh whether a festival is the best place for your film to go, especially in this current climate, which Chloe can get into a little bit more. But to also say like, where are these, is there an educational opportunity for this film? Is there a chance to do community screenings? Does it want to be on an airline? And that's sort of the distribution element that we look and very much individually tailor it to the project. And it's been wonderful working with Hulu because obviously they set such an incredible standard for documentary and nonfiction work. And also for this program, they're sort of committing to that idea of these individual projects finding their best path. I think a lot of other partners would ask for some sort of exclusivity. And I think that this is really meaningful that we get to take these projects and really give them that full career training and say like, what's next for this? While also building that relationship with one of the like true tastemakers in the field.
And just to be completely explicit with that, so in case anyone's watching and they missed that, what you were saying is that you do not have to distribute the project on Hulu if just because you're a part of this program. There is not a requirement or a mandate for Hulu to gain the rights for this project.
Right. The 25K does not mean that Hulu has a right to distribute for X amount of years. Like exactly right. And I think it's I gotta say, I think Hulu is like really leading the charge in how streaming companies and distributors can be not only filmmaker friendly, but just filmmaker forward. I think their inclination this entire time that we've been working with them is that they really want to partner with us and they really want to partner with the filmmakers. They don't necessarily just want to conquer it, right? They don't want to own the copyright. They don't want to just like take over the creative. They want to incubate, they want to partner, and they want to support. And I think that is just such a beautiful, it's a beautiful way of working with filmmakers because filmmakers are creatives. And I firmly believe that the best person to make a film is the filmmaker and everyone else is just helping bring it to fruition. And I think that they share that. And I think that they really respect the craft and they respect the indie film industry. They have a great history of working with indie films. And I really see this as an evolution of the work that they've done. And they've also done it with other organizations as well. So for those watching who are interested, I think Hulu is a great company to get to know, not just because they're Hulu and they're big, but also kind of their ethos. And I'm actually really excited and hope that their peers will take note of how this program is going and that see them for kind of the leader that they are.
And is this program open for both fiction and nonfiction, or is it strictly nonfiction?
It's just documentary shorts.
It's documentary shorts.
Oh, sorry, I don't want to cut you off, Liz. I'll say like hybridization is a thing that we love and is a thing that is totally an option here, but we definitely want it to feel like it's rooted in the nonfiction space. So if you have a hybrid, please apply, but know that we're looking for nonfiction.
Speaking of the application and what you need to apply, what are the application materials needed to apply for this opportunity?
So our application is based off of the Documentary Core application, which most of the major nonprofits got together to say, what are the questions that we have in common? So that we do have a couple of questions that are reflective of the time and also reflective of our mission. Documentary Core is saying, we want to know your topic summary. We want to hear a synopsis of the film. We want to know your creative approach. And then what we also are asking, we want to know about inclusivity. We want to hear all about the different members of your team and not just the director, to see how you're sort of representing the folks on camera and sort of your different, and aligning with our commitment to having, just sort of like opening the community up. And then we're also looking, because these films will be in production in the next several months, we want to know what the COVID protocols will be, because we think that that's actually an ethical choice in nonfiction, that you need to be taking care of both your participants and your team and making those decisions. And so it will be something that we're looking into for these projects to make sure that it's something they've thought about as well.
Is there a part of the application for either of you, and actually for both of you, I'd ask this question, that you would encourage an applicant to pay super close attention to, aside from the COVID protocols, which you just spoke to?
Yeah, I mean, the last thing, and I'm so sorry, Caitlin, if you said this and I missed it, but the filmmakers should also be prepared to give some kind of work sample. And so I think that's always kind of important in that a visual representation of your work. We're talking about a visual project. And so I think it's important. A lot of people ask us, like, do I need a work sample? And we're like, well, unless you're a really great writer, you know, it's helpful to kind of see what you're talking about. And so I think that's something that we get a lot of questions on. But honestly, we're looking, it's to me, it's two things. We're looking for really amazing, creative, original ideas. And we're really interested in who's making it. We're really interested in, again, as Caitlin said, that inclusivity statement, and learning more about the team and who's behind it. And their artistic approach to the project. I think that those are kind of the most important for me and the things I really pay attention to. In fact, there have been applications that I read for If That, and that the work sample was not that great, but I thought that the artistic approach was so beautiful and so well executed and so well detailed that it won over for me. So yeah, I don't know about you, Caitlin.
You, Caitlin?
Yeah, I mean, at Chloe's point, it's a film, and so knowing the visual approach is super helpful. Also, because that tells me what you will do, especially because these projects will be, for the most part, in development or early production. It's good to know what the creative vision is, and for the filmmaker to be able to articulate that, even at this stage, and especially at this stage, because that's going to sort of bring in our buy-in on something that's early. You know, if you have a film where you've already completed a rough cut, it's harder to imagine, but it's also a little bit more set in stone. So for us, this, you know, the artistic approach for me is something where I would be really curious, and to make sure that the language is very visual, and really what's making it a film and not an article, or what's making it a film and not a podcast.
The specificity of that is really clear, and I hope folks heard that. Going with that, is there a common mistake or faux pas that you often see applicants when reviewing their applications for both of you?
I would say we spend a lot of time crafting the eligibility and working over the eligibility for this opportunity with Hulu, and it's all on our website. And so you can generally read when someone has taken that to heart and is aware of how their project fits and is sort of marking it. I would say not looking into those details or including them is sometimes overlooked, but it is something where we'll want to see that you've read the brief. And a somewhat related point to that, I'm very open to questions because this is a new opportunity. I'm thrilled, and I'm a super fast emailer, to answer anyone's questions about this opportunity. It would be best if those questions weren't already in the brief, because it is something where we'll want to see, if we're bringing into the cohort, sort of like how the project fits and how you thought about it for this opportunity, and not just that funding would be nice.
Yeah.
Chloe, anything to add?
No, I think generally everything that Caitlin said falls under kind of my general do your research. You know, I only want to work with filmmakers who are paying attention and who are on their game. And so I want you to have read everything. I want you to to know what's up, I want you to also research your topic. One of the things that every single application round, hands down, I keep saying this to people and people don't believe me. Every single round, every single round, there's an application where somebody says, this is the only film that will do blank. And it's never true. There's always a film that has done it. There's always a film that will do it again. There's always a film that has done an experimental style. There's always a film that has covered XYZ topic. It always is. And so what I really want folks to do, what impresses me 10 times more, is if you reference those other films. We're borrowing the aesthetics of a Hale County, This Morning, This Evening. We are, we're going into this topic, which Laura Porches has looked at in Citizen Four. We're looking at it from a different perspective. Like, quote, reference the film that might come to mind, and then tell me how you're doing it differently, and how your approach is new or fresh. I can guarantee you, anybody who's reading your application has seen a lot of movies, and they're going to be able to kind of know a lot about the topic that you're trying to talk about. And so I think it's really, really, really important. Even personal docs, a lot of personal docs have been made in a lot of different ways about a lot of different topics. So we're all humans and we share a lot more than we think. So do your research and know everything there is to know. And that's always impressive to me.
To your point about doing research, if you are able to reference those films as comparables, that just shows that you're that much more prepared when you're filling out your application. So great advice. Chloe, do you have any advice for how a filmmaker can make the most out of this opportunity in general?
Yeah, I think take advantage of everything. I think that you're going to have a filmmaker who partners with us on this is going to have access to so many gatekeepers and so many such an inside kind of view into the industry, the good and the bad. I think they're going to see kind of the like great, amazing things, and they're also going to see some of the issues that we're tackling with in the nonfiction genre. And I think the best thing a filmmaker could do is to learn and pay attention and ask every question and be as involved, and be ready also to really put their all into the film. I've worked with filmmakers before that have gotten like great opportunities and then they just like weren't ready to take them, and then they kind of just like let it slide by, and that's always really disappointing. And so I think you have to, and a lot of that also has to do with whatever's going on in your personal life, right? But I think they just need to be they just need to take every single open door and be ready to kind of take full advantage of everything that's going on. It's also a lot. It's a big time commitment. It's a lot to make a movie. It's a job. So I think they have to be ready for that too.
And Caitlin, final question. Can you just reference some of the success stories that really stick out in your mind from If Then, projects that have come through that have done really well?
I would love to. This is the greatest joy of my job. So some recent examples, we have a film called Mizuko that's directed by Kira Dane and Caitlin Rebello. It won our American Northeast pitch in 2018. It premiered at an in-person film festival, remember those, at IDFA in Amsterdam, which is like a very big deal European film festival, won a special jury prize there, and has pretty much not stopped winning those jury awards. It won one at South by Southwest. It's just really cleaning up. And it was selected to be a part of One Story Up, which is Roger Ross Williams' curated program on Topic. And so it's streaming there now, and we're just sort of seeing what will happen. We have another film called Status Pending that's about immigration attorneys that premiered on Al Jazeera and has also had some great opportunities on local broadcasts to sort of reach its audience. And Al Jazeera English just actually rebroadcasted in honor of the election to say some of these conversations are still going on. Similarly, had a great festival year. And I mark those two just because this is sort of a strange time, but it's been nice to see how they're balancing festival success with these different distribution opportunities and really just getting different audiences all around the world to see the films.
Amazing. Caitlin, Chloe, thank you so much for joining us here at Syrn Media and giving us so much information about the If Then program and the partnership with Hulu. We're really excited to see the films that come out of it, and we encourage everyone to apply. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having us. This was fun. Appreciate it.
Yeah, this was wonderful. Also, if anyone has any questions, do not hesitate to email.
Email addresses? Want to shout them out really quickly? We'll also list them.
So if then shorts at fielddivision.org will get you to both of us.
Thank you guys. This is the Syrn Media Grant Info Session. We will have more grants for you soon.